So let's just break it down one by one. You agree that Biden should have withdrawn a year and a half ago?
I agree that Biden should have picked a better VP candidate that he knew was going to be the transitional.
Can we also give the right wing a tiny bit of credit here? I mean, they go too far when they say she's just a DEI hire. She was the Attorney General of California. She was a senator from California.
She had the
but
she had
was
the
she
bona
picked because
fides.
she was a black woman? Of course, she was picked because she was a black woman.
I mean, Biden said that was the real reason why she not only picked. I'll take it one step further. It's not even Kamala Harris that frustrates me about that. It's the fact that Biden said that about Ketanji Brown Jackson, who literally is more deserving of a Supreme Court appointment than most of the other Supreme Court justices, and he still fucked the bag up by turning around and being like, "Oh yeah, I'm picking a black woman, Jack," and it was fucking nutty because that's the first time we've had a public defender sit on the top court. That was not a DEI hire in the way that conservatives mention it.
So do you know that I'm against affirmative action? I've always been against affirmative action. And
wait, really?
Yeah. And the reason
I did not know that.
Yeah. The reason is because Ketanji Brown Jackson is an excellent Supreme Court justice who's perfectly qualified. So is Sonia Sotomayor. But the minute that any minority, by the way, including us, gets any position of power, respect, etc., what does everybody do? I just got it because they're black. They just got it because they're this.
No, I think
you think that's just a right wing thing, but it isn't. It
No,
gets
no,
into
no.
everyone's head.
No, I understand where you're coming from, but I respectfully disagree. I think that is ultimately caving in and capitulating to right wing framing on the issue. The affirmative action conversation has always been a band-aid solution to significantly more consequential racial dynamics in this country that have never been addressed at all. And I've always looked at things from a class position regardless. And the real affirmative action is legacy admissions.
100%. We even have a petition on tyt.com to end legacy petitions, because if you're against affirmative action, you have to be against affirmative action for super rich dudes whose dad went to Princeton or gave Princeton $1 million. Okay.
Yeah. George W. Bush going to Yale,
Yeah, that's totally bullshit. And by the way, you know who else was an affirmative action pick? Joe Biden. Because Obama picked him because he was an old white guy. He's I don't really care.
Old racist white guy who
by
has
the way,
gas.
You know that with absolute certainty, because in his final list, he had a big list in the beginning, but in the final list, it was only old white men, because they knew they had to balance the ticket because he was a young African American. So let's not pretend that they didn't pick on demographic information. No, but Obama did, and so did Biden.
Yeah, but also it doesn't work in that direction regardless, because obviously the underlying sentiment is that affirmative action is not the reason why people think black people are undeserving of their position in society. They already thought that, and now they're using affirmative action to continue to compound on that argumentation.
But it does compound, and I hate that it compounds because it's not true.
I'm more the process itself in terms of affirmative action in general, albeit is still, like I said, not a good solution to systemic racism and inequality that persists, and black people being consistently underserved in American society even now. Even when I recognize that, it's still not anything that moves the needle in an appropriate direction is fine. I don't have an issue with it, especially if it's for example, making colleges more diverse in general. That's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing at all, because I do agree with college administrators when they say that America is a diverse country and that we want our student body population to be more representative of the country as a whole. Yeah. And I think that actually makes it a more these are some of my most rad lib takes, I would say, but I do think that actually makes it a better learning environment in general. When you're a kid from the countryside that has never really encountered black people other than seeing black people and black culture on television, when you actually go to college and you're in a dorm and your dorm mate is a black person, for the first time you're actually encountering and developing interpersonal relationships with people that you otherwise never would have. So, I think that makes for a better learning environment.
So two things about that. Look, as you were talking, I came up with an analogy here. Let's see how it goes. I view affirmative action as kind of a counterproductive band-aid on a wound. So the right wing says the wound doesn't exist. No, I think the wound does exist. I just don't think that the band-aid is
Brave.
the right solution, right? So because what the band-aid is doing is it's covering up the wound and not letting it breathe and not letting it heal.
You're a bit of an accelerationist
Okay, so
in that regard.
well, it's a very different accelerationist.
No,
And
but
so,
that
no,
is
but
what,
I'm not trying to accelerate racism. I'm trying to end racism.
that's what pure Marxist-Leninists say about the welfare state.
Okay,
It's a
not interested in
band-aid.
that.
It's a band-aid continuation of like of
Yeah, but they're wrong. That's a completely different topic.
okay. I'm just
So,
saying.
yeah, I got you. So, but in this case, so constantly reaffirming and reaffirming, we should think about race. We should think about race. We should characterize everyone on race. That doesn't help defeat racism. It perpetuates racism. So I think it's a terrible idea. I hate that we view ourselves separately based on different categories, race, gender, sexual orientation, etc. It doesn't mean that there aren't things that are going wrong now. It doesn't mean that there isn't systemic racism. It means that there's a better way to address it. And then in terms of the diversity, look, I would do not affirmative action, but whatever is the appropriate way to put a thumb on a scale, but for acceptance into schools based on class, not on race. And it's not because of class dynamics and I don't want the rich to go to good schools, etc. No, I'm saying that if you came from a poor background, I don't give a goddamn if it's from the hollers of West Virginia or your black kid in the Bronx. If you rose up and got great scores and great grades in a situation like that, you are more likely to be successful. It's not just that it gives you diversity. What it gives you
Confucianism
is,
pilled.
okay, I'm what pilled?
Confucianism pilled.
Okay, whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
you wanna. Yeah, this is once again, Jenkins, Dengus, rise up. You know, you want a Chinese style
meritocracy,
pure meritocracy, pure meritocratic approach. Now, the problem with that is that when you have underserved communities consistently, you got to put your thumb on the scale in a certain place because we don't have true equality of opportunity in this country, and obviously, people like yourself and myself, that's what we're advocating for. Republicans will turn around and bastardize that critique it by saying, you want equality of outcome. We don't want equality of outcome.
No, I
we
definitely
want
don't
true
want that.
equality of opportunity. And when there's no true equality of opportunity, when black communities are consistently underserved, when you look at the Chicago public school system that is 90% of the state of Illinois' like black and brown student body population
takes care of that.
being consistently underserved, you are getting to a point where people are not being propped up. People are not being propped up to succeed in this process. So I think like you're right. Analyzing it from the class position is good because even though there's a racial dynamic and the racial disparity that exists in the American normal order of business, the violence or the inequalities, the structural inequalities, are still dished out on a class-based perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the hollers in Kentucky don't have great public schools either. So they also had to overcome a lot, right? So like saying that a black guy at Exeter should get an advantage, but a white kid in the middle of Missouri who's going to a shit public school too should not get an advantage, that makes no sense at all.
I don't think that that's what people are advocating for, though. I mean, I don't know.
They're
I'm not
literally advocating for that. 100%.
I'm not advocating for
Okay.
that. I don't know
So
what
that's
you
why
mean.
I'm
I don't
against-
I don't think people who are I don't think that like black activist groups are saying like, no, fuck the poor white people. Like, I don't.
No, but they're saying give an advantage based on race, not class. And I'm saying I 100% disagree with that.
Okay. Well, again, Band-Aid solution,
Okay,
regardless.
so back to Biden and Harris. So we both agree Biden should have gotten the fuck out of the race. Crazy.
Can
right?
I just say one other thing, actually? There, historically, the wrong that has been committed is on the basis of race. So I think the solution to that problem, albeit should feature a class dynamic, absolutely will have some racialized component attached to it, because you can't right a historic wrong by simply being like, yeah, we're just gonna.
So look, this is really important. So let's talk about balance, because in the beginning, when let's take longshoremen or firefighters They're all white let's say in the South, right, where you've got massive Jim Crow laws. If you deny that and you think, oh no, black people got perfect opportunity in 1940s and 20s and 60s in the South, you're just in a different planet. So there's no point in talking to you, right? So they're at a massive, massive disadvantage, to say the least. They can't get in. And the longshoremen, I get it. Their instinct is, I want to give my job to my son. It's a good job. It pays well, etc. Right? So I want to pass it on to my son. Now, at some point, you have to use affirmative action in the beginning to break through that. Because if you allow that to happen, black people are never going to be able to break through, right? So you've got to, in the beginning, say, look, we're taking action based on race because the discrimination was based on race. But if you do that forever, then you never break the racial paradigm, right? We're always thinking about race and we're always separating based on race. So it can't be forever. It can't be never. So then the question becomes, when do you end affirmative action? And we started in the 1960s. Here we are in 2024. If it hasn't worked by now, I got news for you. It ain't never going to work.
Yeah,
so
but
it's
that's
the wrong
but that's also
solution to a real problem.
But that's also because, like, it's not. It hasn't even. No, Cenk is not saying racism is over. Pack it up, guys. No, he's not saying
I literally
that.
said that's not the case. The wound still exists. The wound is real.
Yeah,
and I literally said systemic
I
racism
think
is real.
Maybe you might not. Maybe you might not like this, but I do think that reparations is part of the solution to this. Albeit it's politically impossible to get through in a country that is so resilient in their interpretation of whites, how much they've internalized white supremacy.
But again, reparations is a super interesting, nuanced conversation. So on the one hand, you know, and I'll give credit to Marianne Williamson here. I thought she phrased it best back in 2020 when she said a debt is owed. And that is actually very literally true.
Yeah.
So we used the country at large and the country I love. And yes, we came to it much, much later. But that country took advantage of all of that free labor to build what we love and what we now take advantage of and what we came here for, right? So hundreds of years of free labor, no matter what your race is or what your condition is unacceptable. They never got paid for that. It's a massive robbery from African Americans in this country. So I not only acknowledge that, but I'm enraged by it. But now, what are we going to do? If you propose a reparations that's so extreme as San Francisco did, where they're like, oh, any black person can buy a house in San Francisco for $1. What the fuck?
Okay. What do you? I don't even know what you're talking. Hold on. What are you talking about?
Had this insane thing where they're like, okay, now every white and non-black, including Latinos, including Middle Eastern, Asians, etc., have to give money to black people in this city or in this town where they passed it.
Wait, hold on. Let's just take a look at it first. Let's analyze it a little bit, because this seems a little kooky.
You're going to see how insane it is.
This seems a little bit kooky. So proposals include financing debt forgiveness, guaranteed annual incomes for families and homes in the city for $1. San Francisco backs reparation plans, including $5 million to eligible black adults. More than 100 recommendations included payments of $5 million to every eligible black adult, the elimination of personal debt and tax burdens, guaranteed annual incomes of at least $97,000 for 250 years, and homes in San Francisco for just $1 a family. San Francisco lawmakers heard
that's real. That's the Guardian.
They heard I know. They heard a range of options. Sometimes people have ideas. They present those ideas in a situation like this, in like a public town hall setting, and regardless of
enthusiastic support by the council.
Okay, so but here's the thing. This is some of the 100 different recommendations that came through, and it doesn't seem like they followed through on this or any number of these different reparations plans. It's like people have a multitude
enthusiastically received.
I think saying that is very different than following through on it as a part of your legislative agenda.
So my point was there are extreme proposals on reparations that make no sense. Okay. And you're agreeing. It makes no sense.
Okay.
Right? That's a ludicrous position.
Yeah,
right?
but
so hold on. Is there a way to do reparations in a way that does make sense? And I think the answer is yes. I don't think it's giving black people a house for $1. I don't think it's giving them money, etc. But the new school has proposed some interesting ideas, including, hey, what if we provided tax breaks that would be material in buying housing for African Americans? So, well, okay, that's interesting, because now, or you've created a fund that allows them to turn it into an education fund for their children, right?
This person also has a good point. We should have a ceasefire in Gaza has also been enthusiastically received by the Biden admin. Didn't mean they did a damn thing because politicians
but we're not arguing, guys. If you think it's absurd, great, fantastic. We all agree it's absurd.
I don't think that there are I'm sure that there are some people who think this is a fantastic idea and they could get into an academic conversation about it. It's just more so a matter of like the framing of this to make it seem as though like the
No, I'm setting the
San
outer
Francisco,
extremes, Haas.
yeah, but like
Okay, so I'm saying when you say reparations, a lot of people are going to say hell no. A lot of people are going to say hell yes. But my point is, but what are we saying yes or no to? So if you take the most extreme example, I say no, and everybody says no. But it's not I'm agreeing with you. That's not the only proposal. I'm just telling you, New School has proposals that are really interesting about, hey, what if it was directed towards education or housing? We promised 40 acres and a mule, and we lied. We never gave them the 40 acres and a mule.
Yeah, only reparations were given to slave owners, as a matter of fact, for lost revenue off of the freed African men and women.
Yeah. So you see what I'm saying? That you could do it in a way that where middle America goes, oh, I get it. That sucks. That was an injustice. And we're trying a small thing here to make up for the injustice so that it at a minimum, symbolically, to say, thank you, brothers and sisters, for putting up with this shit. Like, I know you didn't do it voluntarily, but you helped build this country and we appreciate you. So get on a page where we understand each other and appreciate each other instead of framing it as I'm taking from you. You owe me and I'm taking from you, right? So that perpetuates a wrong cycle. Whereas but in order to do that, Haas, last thing on it is you've got to have like truth and reconciliation, just like South Africa did. Here's all the fucked up shit we did.
South Africa's, South Africa's reconstruction period also was not a great
But truth and
success either.
reconciliation was excellent. So that portion of it was great because they said, here's all the terrible things we did. Guys, it doesn't mean that white people today are racist. It doesn't mean white people today are awful. It doesn't mean all white people are the same. It doesn't mean any of that. What it means is in the past, there were terrible things that were done. And here's us trying to make up for it in some small way that the country agrees to and we're all on board for. And sincere apology and a sincere thank you. And now, from now on, let's move forward. Let's move forward and cut all the talk of like race this and race that and gender this and gender that from both sides, by the way. The right wing starts more identity politics than the left wing does. So now the right wing guys, their heads will explode. What do you mean? You guys try to find wedge issues on every fucking thing. And then you go more and more in extreme. And I think you guys, Haas, fall into that trap way too often. We'll get to that later.
Wait, let's get to it now.
Okay.
What do you mean by that?
So you know what we're going to talk about, the trans issues. So on trans issues,